Now, I'm sure many of you by now must have heard nostalgic stories or reviews about good old Castlevania games from back in the day.
It's a common fact that many gamers as kids enjoyed these games, and rightfully so because they're classics.
But not all of us share the same opinions on Castlevania games. Many gamers have their favorite and reasons why. But come on, we all know who the biggest Castlevania man is here, right?
And that is where we come in. So you know what? Sit back, kick back, get out your vampire killers, because we're going to be diving into one of our all-time favorite franchises. So Rob, do you want to go and put the game in?
Why do I gotta go and be the one to put the game in? You're the one with the legs.
Now, my history with Castlevania games go all over the place, so if we were going to follow it head on, things would probably get really confusing. So instead, what better way than to start than at the beginning, where it all began. My late cousin introduced me to the series nearly 3 decades ago, so the memories are all coming back. He brings over the game called Castlevania for the NES, and I had never heard of it, but he described it as a movie-type horror game, and we had to make sure we were ready for it.
Because word was that this was going to be a very scary video game. And I was always a fan of classic horror films back in the day, and I still consider myself today to be a major enthusiast.
We put the game in the NES and let the nightmares begin.
Yep, damn it. There we go. Gulp.
While the game didn't exactly scare me as much as others had let on, what appealed to me instead was how adrenaline rushing it was. As soon as the game begins, you're hit with probably the most recognizable track in all of Castlevania history. All while you're strutting around destroying evil, with a fairly uncommon weapon no less. A whip of all things, known today as the Vampire Killer. The story itself is pretty basic, but fun nonetheless. Of course, as games go on, you would expect the mythology to expand with it. And boy has it, for better or for worse is up for debate. But back then, it was just Simon Belmont rescuing the world from a castle with familiar monsters and ghouls, and even mythology. The giant bat, Medusa, mummies, Frankenstein's monster, and even the Grim Reaper makes an appearance. With, of course, Dracula being the main villain.
You know, that's kind of odd when you think about it. Wouldn't death be kind of the ruler of all that is evil, being the one that brings people back from the dead and kills them?
It does make you wonder, but I guess it makes sense since Dracula is the more popular character, so I guess not. By the way, can I play?
Wait your turn.
My turn.
Okay.
One major thing worth noting is that the struggle of Castlevania games are fairly notorious for how difficult they can be. If it were for the challenge of surviving battles enough, that would be fine and not too much of a problem. But the major backlash that people hate is the knockback that Simon or any Belmont deals with as he takes damage. The force of the attack sends you pretty much a whole panel back and may even gravitate you towards the nearest drop zone, or dead zone. It's a very frustrating consequence for a very simple mistake, because you could be breezing through a stage with no problems and then by some mishap or a lucky shot from an enemy, oh, you're dead.
Mother... Son of a...
Don't be depressed. Well, nobody said the road to saving the world was going to be an easy venture.
Fortunately, there are power-ups to help you on the way. As you travel from point A to point B, there are candles stationed just about everywhere you look. Whipping these will drop out hearts, which count as ammunition. I always wondered why in the Castlevania mythos hearts, unlike every other game in existence, are anything but health. Why couldn't ammunition for your weapons look like something, less confusing?
I mean, what dummy over there at Konami thought that hearts would be a suitable item used for ammunition, such as reloading guns and whatsoever? I mean, the idea is just ludicrous. Hearts actually...
Ammunition for what exactly? Well, stationed in specific handles, you will find a range of sub-weapons that Simon can use while holding up and pressing attack. These sub-weapons range from twirling boomerangs, holy water, axes, a stopwatch, which, honest to God, is rarely ever useful, and even a dagger. Some weapons are clearly better than others, but trust me, if you have no idea where certain weapons are better used as an advantage, odds are they're not going to be of much help. It really comes down to trial and error and figuring out which sub-weapon is better for each area, and unfortunately that's not always easy to figure out. The other part of the challenge is, well, Simon Belmont himself is not very durable. At first the damage he takes isn't so bad, but as you get further in the game, it will start to take just 4 hits from an enemy to kill you. That is ridiculous, especially when hearts refuse to work as what they do in every other game. So, how do you recover from this? Luckily, there is a way. Notable by pure accidents, you may strike a wall that breaks open to reveal a pork chop. Several of these are hidden in walls during stages, but there is no indication as to where they are, so unless you aimlessly strike every wall or look up an online guide, odds are you'll rarely come across them. You can also find bonus points via the same method, but you already have infinite continues anyway, so gaining extra lives through treasures is worthless. Simon's whip, the vampire killer, is a sufficient weapon though, but unfortunately not always adequate. Mostly because of the half-second delay in the attack, which means you literally have to know in advance what you're attacking and how the enemies will respond. The whip can also be upgraded the same way as everything else, whipping candles and finding them. The game, however, is pretty quick to give them to you though, so at least it's generous.
You know, I'm really surprised I have to ask this, but if you were to whip a candle, do you think that anything would fly out of it and be useful?
I don't know. Have you ever tried to hit one?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
What's going on over there?
Yeah, I really don't know. Oh, nothing comes out, by the way.
Regrettably, the generosity of weapons can also be a problem because sometimes you might be dependent on a particular sub-weapon that's working for you, only for it to accidentally be replaced by a weapon you don't want just because you struck a candle and replaced it. Which means one thing. Your ass is grass. And like I said, some weapons are clearly better than others. The one you will probably quickly dismiss is the holy water. It has very poor range, it doesn't look like much, and doesn't appear to do much beyond sprinkle with a bit of flashes on the ground, and all around looks useless. That is, until you realize that it's the best weapon in the game. Dare I say, it's even a game breaker. And you know what? I think this was a very conscious decision by the developers. First of all, it was by pure coincidence when I discovered just how broken this weapon really is. I figured it was the weapon everybody would dismiss, but I was at least eager to find a decent place to use it. Turns out just about anywhere is a decent place. It makes quick work of every enemy and stops them dead in their tracks. Even bosses can't compete with this stuff. Under normal circumstances with any other weapon, the boss of a stage would be considered a formidable opponent. But if you have the holy water, they're complete pussies! Frozen on spot! Now, the reason I say this was a conscious decision is no more apparent than on level 6, the Grim Reaper stage. Death is notorious for being the hardest boss in the game. And yes, I believe he's even harder than Dracula. And his level can also be equally as brutal, especially the room right before you fight him. You've got knights blocking your way throwing axes at 2 different parallels, and Medusa heads flying in a wave position, making this room an absolute nightmare. I mean, look at the pattern going on here. And at this point in the game, it only takes 4 hits to kill you, which is very likely to happen, and the 2 knights you encounter take 9 hits to defeat. But good luck focusing on attempting to hit them while trying to dodge the axes and the Medusa heads all at the same time. This part would drive anyone crazy! That is, until you know the secret. At the beginning of the stage, you have 1 chance to get the holy water. Once you've got it, the challenge now is not to lose it. Which means be extremely careful when striking candles, because you don't want to accidentally replace the holy water with something else. And also, you want to avoid dying, because after you die, you lose the item as well. but you will still need to try to collect some hearts to keep the ammunition on your holy water going. Now, if you are effectively using the holy water, you will find that this could potentially be the easiest stage because of it. Making it through that final room is also no longer an issue. I mean, check this out. Look at how easy it is to mow through these guys when you have a strategy going here. This holy water absolutely destroys any challenge left in the game. Even Death himself can't do a darn thing. Wow. Talk about broken.
Yeah! Belmont's won!
Death 0!
Dracula's level is by far the most difficult, not because of the enemies with high endurance, no, nothing like that, but because you will be swarmed with a barrage of enemies that will probably send you hurling down a pit over and over and over. It's mostly a level of endurance. His level is pretty short though, so once you've made it through to Dracula's stairs, you won't have to worry about repeating it. Now, it's time for the final showdown. I'm sure you know that you will have to go up and down the steps repeatedly to gather some hearts, and once you've got enough, it's time to end this.
Yeah! Now that's how we get it done here on the farm!
Was that a reference to a show?
No?
So you get the cheesy ending with the classic horror movie icons, names all abridged like, you see the castle crumble, and the world is saved.
But in the end, Castlevania is an all-time classic that we're pretty sure you didn't need to hear coming from us, as it's pretty much common knowledge. But hopefully for seasoned players and even newcomers, we hope that we were able to at least enlighten you guys and bring something new that you maybe didn't know about.
It's definitely not as hard as some other critics made it out to be, but it does offer a decent challenge at best. But it is a fun adventure for casual gamers and even seasoned gamers who will more than likely be able to beat the game in about 30 minutes, give or take. I know speedrunners make a habit out of it.
Well, be sure to join us next time on... Okay, really, Rob?
Oh, come on, William. You knew I wasn't gonna let you end it that easily. You have to play the highly anticipated sequel. It's a lot of fun. Plus, it's on Nintendo.
You know, technically, I don't have to do anything, but since you've already made the segue, I guess people are going to start expecting it, so yeah. Join us next time where we review Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2.